The abduction. It was an ordinary afternoon on Earth, the kind where everything seemed calm. People went about their daily lives. Some were at work, others at school, and many were relaxing at home. There was nothing unusual about the day until the sky itself began to change. A bright, eerie light appeared in the sky. It wasn't the sun or any natural occurrence. It was something different, something foreign. At first, no one knew what was happening. The light grew larger and larger until it filled the sky. People stopped what they were doing and looked up in fear. What was this? Was it a new star? A meteor? Or something much worse? The strange object above wasn't just a light. It was a massive ship, so big that it seemed to block out the sun. It hovered silently, casting an unnatural shadow over the world below. Panic quickly spread. People began to scream and run, unsure of what to do. Some tried to call the authorities, but the signals were all jammed. The aliens, whoever they were, had already taken control of communication. In the middle of the chaos, a small family in a quiet suburban neighborhood sat in their backyard. The father, Jake, was grilling burgers for dinner. His daughter, Lily, was playing with her dog, Max. It was a typical day for them, filled with laughter and warmth. They had no idea that the world was about to change forever. Then, without warning, the ship above them emitted a loud, piercing sound that rattled the windows of every house in the neighborhood. Jake looked up, his heart racing in his chest. The sky was now filled with alien ships, hundreds of them. They descended quickly, blocking out the sun with their dark, enormous shapes. A voice boomed from the lead ship, speaking in a language no one understood. But the tone was unmistakable, demanding, cold, and threatening. Before Jake could process what was happening, a beam of light shot down from the ship and struck the ground. It was as if the beam had a mind of its own. It moved across the neighborhood, targeting specific homes. One by one, the people of Earth found themselves paralyzed, unable to move or even speak. And then, without warning, they were taken. Lily's dog, Max, was caught in the beam. In an instant, the dog was lifted from the ground and pulled toward the ship. Jake reached out, shouting for Max, but it was too late. Max was gone. His daughter cried out in horror, unable to understand what had just happened. Jake could barely hold back his own tears as he watched his beloved pet disappear into the sky. The aliens didn't speak a word of explanation. They didn't need to. Their message was clear. They had come to Earth, and they had taken what they wanted. In the blink of an eye, the peaceful planet had become a battlefield. The world's governments tried to respond, but it was clear they were outmatched. The aliens were too advanced, their ships too powerful. Every effort to fight back was quickly crushed. The aliens had no interest in negotiation or peace. They wanted what they came for, and they weren't leaving without it. Jake and Lily were left standing in their yard, staring at the sky. The alien ships had already begun to move toward other parts of the world, taking whatever they wanted, leaving destruction in their wake. It was a brutal invasion, and there was nothing the humans could do to stop it. But as Jake held his daughter in his arms, a spark of anger began to grow inside him. They had taken Max. They had taken something precious from his family. And in doing so, they had made a mistake. The humans on Earth might have been shocked and frightened, but there was something they didn't understand. When you take something from humanity, you ignite a fire. The fire of revenge. It was a fire that would burn brighter and brighter until it consumed everything in its path. The aliens might have taken Max, but they had no idea what they had just unleashed. Jake looked at Lily, his eyes filled with determination. "We won't let them get away with this," he said, his voice filled with a cold anger that matched the growing storm in the sky. The aliens might have taken their pet, but they had no idea what they were about to face. The war had begun, and humanity would not back down. The first part ends with the chilling realization that the aliens had made a grave mistake by underestimating humanity's ability to fight back. What they had taken from Earth would become the fuel for a revenge that no one could have predicted. The battle for Earth's survival had only just begun. The discovery. The chaos of the abduction had barely settled when Earth's leaders realized something critical. The alien invaders weren't just interested in taking resources or controlling Earth. They had come for something much more personal. A pet. The meaning of that wasn't lost on the survivors. The aliens had made a massive mistake, and humanity had been wronged in a way that no one would forget. Jake and Lily, still shaken from the events, stood in the ruins of their neighborhood. All around them, people were searching for answers. The government had scrambled to form an emergency response, but all communications had been blocked. The alien ships were too powerful. Even the mightiest military forces of Earth were no match for their technology. And still, no one knew why they had taken Max, a family pet. But among the chaos, something else was happening. A small group of scientists and engineers from around the world had been gathering in secret. They were working underground, isolated from the alien attack, determined to find a way to strike back. They had no choice. Earth's very survival was at stake. Dr. Maria Hill, a leading physicist and the head of one of the secret research teams, had been working tirelessly for weeks. She had once worked on theoretical projects involving energy fields and advanced weaponry. Little did she know that these theories would soon become humanity's last hope. In the days following the invasion, Hill had stumbled upon something unexpected in Earth's archives. An ancient energy source, one that had been buried deep within the planet for centuries. It was a power that had never been tapped, a power that could change everything. She gathered her team in a secure, hidden underground lab. The information was unsettling at first, even to them. What they had uncovered was not only beyond modern science, but it also held the potential to destroy the alien invaders. The power source was tied to Earth's core, a mysterious energy, ancient and far more advanced than anything humanity had ever encountered. This could be the key to taking them down, Dr. Hill said to her team, her voice trembling with the weight of what they were about to attempt. But we need to understand it fully. We cannot afford to fail. The scientists worked around the clock, analyzing every fragment of data, every ancient text they could find. But the deeper they dug, the more questions arose. How was this energy source connected to the very structure of Earth itself? And why had it been hidden for so long? No one had the answers, but the thought of revenge against the aliens kept pushing them forward. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Jake, Lily, and the other survivors had no idea what was happening beneath the surface. They could only watch as their world crumbled under the alien assault. The aliens were taking more than just pets now. They were destroying entire cities, wiping out key infrastructures, and leaving nothing but ashes in their wake. The humans, despite their attempts to organize, were helpless. It felt like the end of the world. But the news about the scientists' discovery wasn't entirely bad. One day, Jake received a strange message on his communicator, one that had somehow bypassed the alien jamming signals. It was from an anonymous source, a group who had been working in secret. The message was brief but clear. There is hope. We have found a way to fight back. But we need you. We need humanity to unite, to take a stand. It was a beacon of light in the darkest hour. Jake, still reeling from the loss of his dog and the devastation around him, felt a spark of hope. The battle wasn't over. But how could ordinary people like him and Lily be part of something so monumental? He didn't have the answers, but he knew one thing. Humanity could not afford to sit idly by. Dr. Hill and her team had managed to unlock the first secrets of the energy source beneath Earth. But their efforts were not without cost. They had discovered that activating this energy would not only give them the power to destroy the aliens, but would also come with a significant risk. It could destabilize Earth's core. Using it could mean the destruction of the planet. But it could also be the only way to get revenge on the alien forces that had caused so much pain. As the days passed, the world began to rally. Governments, once divided by their differences, came together. Small groups of survivors formed networks, sharing information and resources. The world had been torn apart, But now it was time to fight back. Jake and Lily were among the many who joined the resistance effort. Jake knew that the moment was coming. The humans had been pushed to the edge, and they would fight back, no matter the cost. The weapon was ready, but what would it cost to use it? They were about to find out. The fate of the planet hung in the balance. Would humanity be able to unlock the full power of the energy source without destroying themselves in the process? Or would they have to make the ultimate sacrifice to win? The second part ends with humanity's first real hope for victory. An ancient power discovered deep within Earth, capable of turning the tide of the war. But the risks of using this power are immense. Earth's leaders must now decide if they are willing to pay the price of revenge. The next chapter of the story promises a desperate struggle, as humanity's quest for justice may come at a deadly cost. The first strike. The world had already been irrevocably changed. Cities lay in ruins, and the air was thick with the tension of a war that humanity never expected to fight. Alien ships still hovered above, their presence a constant reminder of the great wrong that had been done. But amidst the chaos and destruction, there was one thing that the aliens did not anticipate: humanity's resolve. Dr. Maria Hill's research team had worked tirelessly for weeks, and at last, they were ready. The ancient energy source, hidden deep within Earth, was now unlocked. It had taken everything they had: resources, time, and lives. But they had done it. The weapon they had created was not just a weapon. It was a force that could change the tide of war and push the invaders back, far away from Earth. The plan was set in motion. Across the globe, the remaining human forces, now united under a single banner, began to prepare for the first counterattack. The most advanced warships, equipped with the newly discovered energy technology, were called into action. This was no longer a fight for survival. This was revenge, pure and simple. Jake and Lily were among those who had joined the human resistance. After the loss of Max, they had vowed to be part of the effort to push the invaders off Earth. As they stood alongside soldiers, engineers, and other survivors, there was an air of determination. Humanity's revenge was about to begin. The night before the first strike, Jake couldn't sleep. He stood at the edge of the military base, staring up at the sky where the alien ships floated ominously above. His mind raced, filled with thoughts of the devastation the aliens had caused. But there was no time to dwell on it. Tomorrow would be the first true test of humanity's strength. At dawn, the attack began. The human fleet, hidden beneath the surface of Earth's oceans for safety, emerged from their secret base. The newly reactivated warships, armed with the mysterious energy weapon, rose from the depths and into the sky, targeting the alien ships above. The alien fleet had no idea what was coming. The first strike was swift and brutal. The human ships, utilizing the powerful new energy technology, fired upon the alien fleet with an intensity that took the invaders completely by surprise. For the first time, the aliens seemed to falter. Their once impenetrable defense shields began to crack under the power of humanity's new weapon. The aliens, so sure of their superiority, were forced to retreat in the face of this unexpected onslaught. Jake watched in awe as the alien ships began to fall. One by one, they were shot down or forced to flee. This was it. Humanity was fighting back. But the victory was short-lived. The aliens, furious at the unexpected resistance, quickly regrouped. What had once been a single fleet of invaders now seemed to grow in size. More ships appeared out of nowhere, as if they were coming from the depths of space itself. The humans had succeeded in catching the aliens off guard, but it was clear that this was only the beginning. As the battle raged on, humanity's forces began to feel the weight of the alien retaliation. Their ships were powerful, but the aliens were relentless. A massive alien vessel appeared, its size dwarfing anything the humans had ever seen. It was an absolute force of destruction, and it quickly turned the tide of battle. The human fleet struggled to maintain its advantage. Jake and Lily's hearts sank as they watched their allies being overwhelmed. For every alien ship they brought down, Two more seemed to take its place. The human forces were being pushed to the edge of defeat, and it seemed like the aliens were finally unleashing their full strength. It was then that Dr. Hill's team discovered something disturbing. The alien fleet was not just a military force. They had been holding back something far more dangerous, an energy field so powerful that it could disrupt the Earth's magnetic core. If they unleashed it, the planet itself could be torn apart. The alien counterattack. The victory had been sweet but fleeting. Humanity's forces had caught the aliens off guard, striking them with a surprise counterattack. The alien fleet had been forced to retreat, but it hadn't taken long for them to regroup. The aliens, now aware of Earth's hidden strength, were furious and more determined than ever to crush the human resistance. Jake, Lily, and the others in the human fleet were preparing for what seemed to be the inevitable. They had made progress, but the war was far from over. They had poked the hornet's nest, and now the aliens were coming back with a vengeance. A fleet of alien warships, larger, more powerful, and more coordinated, began to emerge from the dark reaches of space. These ships were unlike anything Earth's forces had encountered before. They were equipped with advanced weaponry capable of tearing apart entire cities in a single blast. The previously weakened alien forces now had reinforcements. The balance of power was shifting once again. "We've pushed them back before," Jake muttered, standing alongside Lily on the deck of the human flagship, the Vanguard. "We can do it again. We have to." But Lily wasn't so sure. She had seen the devastation caused by the alien ships in the early days of the invasion. The humans had barely survived the first attack, and now, with the full might of the alien fleet bearing down on them, it felt like they were up against an unstoppable force. Dr. Hill's voice crackled over the comms. "The aliens are using a new strategy. They're coordinating their attacks in a way we've never seen before. They're targeting our weak points." The humans had thought they were ready. The energy weapon they had developed was strong, but it was not without its limitations. The aliens had adapted quickly, and their new tactics made it clear they had learned from their previous mistakes. The human fleet had to fight smarter, or they risked losing everything. Jake's ship, the Vanguard, had been at the front lines of the battle. As the aliens approached, the tension in the air was palpable. The human ships braced for impact. The moment of truth had arrived. Suddenly, the first wave of alien warships fired. A blinding flash of energy streaked across the sky, and a massive explosion rocked the human fleet. Jake's ship was hit hard. The energy weapon that had given them the advantage was now at risk of being destroyed. The aliens had figured out how to counteract it. "We can't let them destroy our weapon," shouted Jake, his voice filled with urgency. Lily rushed to the bridge, her heart racing. The attack had thrown the humans into disarray, and it was clear that the aliens were using their overwhelming firepower to break their resolve. Yet even as the explosions rattled their ships, the humans refused to give up. The fight wasn't over. Across the fleet, engineers and technicians scrambled to restore the energy weapon. Meanwhile, the human forces launched a series of evasive maneuvers, trying to outwit the aliens. They had to make sure that their weapon, their hope, survived the onslaught. Dr. Hill and her team had been working on a solution, but they were running out of time. The battle raged on for hours. The sky was filled with debris, the air thick with the roar of weapons fire. The human fleet fought valiantly, but it was clear that the alien forces were far better equipped and far more organized. Every time the humans made a breakthrough, the aliens retaliated with devastating force. Back on Earth, the situation was no better. Alien ground troops had begun their assault, pushing through defenses with ease. The cities were falling one by one. Humanity was losing ground on every front. But just when it seemed like all hope was lost, something unexpected happened. In the midst of the chaos, the human fleet began to regroup. The energy weapon had been repaired, and it was ready to fire again. As the alien ships closed in, Jake gave the order to launch everything they had. The weapon fired, its energy beam cutting through the skies. It struck the heart of the alien fleet, hitting their command ship directly. The alien ship trembled, its shields failing under the force of the blast. But even as the alien ship faltered, the human fleet was already moving to its next target. "We've got them on the run," Jake yelled over the comms. The aliens, stunned by the effectiveness of the counterattack, hesitated. For the first time since the invasion, they were being forced to retreat. But the victory was bittersweet. Though the aliens had been pushed back, the damage had already been done. Humanity had suffered enormous losses, and Earth was in ruins. The war was far from over, but the humans had proven one thing: they would never give up. They would fight until the last breath, no matter how overwhelming the odds. As Jake stood on the bridge of the Vanguard, looking out at the retreating alien fleet, he knew that the tide of war had shifted. But he also knew that the worst was yet to come. The aliens would not stop, not until they had wiped humanity from the galaxy. The battle for Earth's survival was far from over, and now the humans had a new goal. They would not only fight to survive, they would fight to win. And as they prepared for the next phase of the war, Jake couldn't help but wonder, could humanity truly defeat an enemy so powerful? Would they be able to drive the invaders from Earth and take back what was theirs? One thing was certain: the fight was far from finished. The true war had only just begun. Part 4 ends with humanity pushing back the alien forces for the moment, but the aliens are far from defeated. They have regrouped and are preparing for their next move. The question now is, can the humans keep up the fight, or will the aliens finally crush them? The battle for Earth is only escalating. Keep fighting. We can't let them use that weapon. Dr. Hill's voice rang out over the communications channel. We've come too far to lose now. The human forces scrambled to keep their advantage, but with each passing moment, the alien retaliation became more fierce. The balance of power was shifting again, and for the first time, the humans wondered if their attack had been a mistake. The energy weapon they had relied on had made an impact, but not enough to turn the tide. The battle was escalating. It was no longer just about revenge for the lost pet, Max. It was about survival. The alien forces had shown that they were willing to destroy everything, even the Earth itself, just to break humanity's spirit. But even as the human forces faced annihilation, they refused to give up. The first strike had been a victory, but now they had to face the overwhelming alien retaliation. The question now was, would humanity survive the next wave of destruction? Would Earth stand tall, or would it be wiped out in the name of revenge? Part 3 ends with humanity's first true victory in the war against the aliens. They had caught the invaders off guard and struck a powerful blow, but the aliens had proven to be far more dangerous than anticipated. The war was far from over, and the true battle for survival was just beginning. The question was, could the humans keep up their fight against an enemy with seemingly unlimited power? The tide turns. The victory over the alien fleet was a fleeting moment of triumph, and it quickly became clear that humanity was in a race against time. The human forces had inflicted damage, yes, but the aliens were not easily deterred. The damage done to their fleet had forced them to fall back temporarily, but their resolve was unshaken. The next wave would come harder, faster, and more organized. The humans knew this, and they were preparing. The temporary lull in fighting gave them a brief respite, but it was a brief and uneasy peace. Every moment counted now. Humanity's survival depended on what came next. Jake stood in the war room aboard the Vanguard, staring at the holographic map that flickered in front of him. The map displayed the positions of both human and alien forces scattered across the galaxy. Earth was still the focal point of the war, but now, human forces were preparing to strike back, not just in defense, but in offense. The aliens had taken so much from them, so much that now, humanity's rage was a powerful motivator. "What's the status on the remaining fleets?" Jake asked, his voice calm but firm. "We've managed to get some of the fleets back up to full strength," replied Captain Sarah Mitchell, her eyes scanning the data. "Our resources are still stretched thin, but we've managed to reverse engineer some of the alien tech. We're learning faster than they anticipated." Dr. Hill, who had been working nonstop, chimed in. "We've also discovered something troubling. The aliens aren't just bent on conquering Earth. They have a bigger plan. Earth was just the beginning. They're planning to wipe out all sentient species in the galaxy. The destruction of Earth was meant to send a message. Now, they intend to finish what they started." The news hit Jake like a gut punch. The aliens weren't just here to subdue Earth. They were here to erase humanity from existence. There was no negotiating, no compromise. The human race was being hunted. "We can't let them get away with this," Jake said through gritted teeth. "We can't just sit here and wait for them to wipe us out. We need to strike, and we need to strike fast." The plan was set into motion. With the newly modified energy weapons, humanity's forces began their most daring offensive yet. Instead of retreating further into their defenses, the humans were going on the attack. The time had come for Earth to make a stand. But as the battle escalated, the aliens unveiled their most dangerous weapon yet. It was a massive dreadnought-class ship that dwarfed anything the humans had ever seen. The sheer size of it was mind-boggling. A space fortress capable of unleashing devastating energy beams, powerful enough to obliterate entire continents in a single blast. "This is it," Jake murmured. "They're bringing out the big guns." The dreadnought was not only enormous, but also heavily shielded. The humans' energy weapons, which had been effective against smaller alien ships, were useless against this new force. Earth's survival hinged on finding a way to take down the dreadnought before it could unleash its fury. As the alien warship moved toward Earth, a sense of dread began to hang over the human forces. The dreadnought was an unstoppable juggernaut, and every time the human fleet launched an attack, it seemed to bounce off the dreadnought's shields with no effect. "We need to find its weak point," Dr. Hill called out over the comms. "If we don't, it'll destroy us all." Jake's mind raced. There had to be a way to defeat it. Then something caught his eye. A small, seemingly insignificant detail on the holomap. The dreadnought's shields were strong, but not perfect. There was a small gap in the shield where the energy beam was being funneled into the ship's core for power. If they could hit that gap, it would disable the entire ship. "It's risky," Jake said, his voice tight with tension. "But it's our only shot." The human fleet regrouped and launched a coordinated strike aimed at that weak point. The dreadnought fired its weapons, launching massive energy blasts that ripped through space. But the humans pressed on. With the precision of a well-oiled machine, the human ships swooped in. Lily's voice echoed over the comms as she led one of the strike teams. "We're in position. Firing in 3, 2, 1, now." The concentrated fire from the human fleet hit the weak point with unrelenting force. The dreadnought trembled, and for a moment, the universe seemed to hold its breath. Then, with a deafening explosion, the energy core of the dreadnought ruptured. The ship broke apart in a massive burst of light, its once mighty shields shattering into nothingness. "We did it," Jake shouted in disbelief, staring at the wreckage of the dreadnought. But even as the dreadnought fell, the alien forces began to regroup once again. The battle was far from over. The aliens had suffered a major setback, but their hunger for destruction was insatiable. More alien ships, bigger and more powerful, were already en route. "We've won this round," Dr. Hill said, her voice full of resolve. "But this is just the beginning. The aliens will be back with everything they have. They won't stop until we're wiped out." Jake looked at the wreckage of the dreadnought, and then back at the remaining alien ships still circling Earth. He knew Dr. Hill was right. This war was only just beginning, and Earth had a long road ahead. But now, they had one thing the aliens didn't expect: hope. Humanity was fighting back, and for the first time since the invasion began, The aliens knew that Earth was not going down without a fight. Part 5 ends with the destruction of the alien dreadnought, marking a major victory for humanity. But the aliens are not finished yet, and the war continues. As humanity fights on, the aliens are preparing for their next move, and the humans are determined to stop them, no matter the cost. The ultimate weapon. The battle had raged on for months. Humanity had fought fiercely, making every victory come at an immense cost. Yet every time they pushed the alien invaders back, they seemed to come back stronger, faster, more prepared. The odds were stacked against Earth, but humanity's resolve was unbreakable. The destruction of the alien dreadnought had given humanity a brief moment of hope, but it had also shown the true power of the alien forces. Despite their victory, Jake knew that the war wasn't over. The aliens were far from defeated. They were simply regrouping, preparing for their next wave. And this time, they were coming with everything they had. Back on Earth, the situation had become desperate. Major cities lay in ruins, the once bustling world now a shadow of its former self. The human resistance had been forced to scatter across the planet, using guerrilla tactics to slow down the relentless alien advance. But the longer the war dragged on, the more human resources were stretched thin. Time was running out. The human fleet had been rebuilt, though at a significant cost. The energy weapons that had turned the tide in the early days of the war were now critical to humanity's survival. But the aliens, having studied Earth's tactics, had learned to counteract those weapons. Their shields were stronger, their technology more advanced, and their new ships were unlike anything the humans had ever encountered. In a secret underground facility, deep within the mountains of Earth, the last hope for humanity was taking shape. Dr. Hill had been working tirelessly, along with her team of scientists, to develop a new weapon, one that could not only turn the tide of battle, but ensure humanity's survival. "This is it," Dr. Hill said as she stood before a massive, covered structure. Her voice was tinged with both exhaustion and determination. "We've spent months on this. If it works, it's our last chance." Jake walked up beside her, his face grim. "What exactly is it?" "It's an experimental weapon," she explained, her eyes focused on the structure. "We've combined the best elements of our energy weapons with alien technology. If we can get it to work, it will give us the firepower we need to take down the alien fleet, no matter how powerful they are." But Jake knew that even if it worked, there would be no guarantee it would turn the tide. They had seen too many promising weapons fail. Too many plans crumble under the weight of the alien onslaught. And yet, they had no choice. This weapon had to work. Outside the facility, the sounds of explosions and distant gunfire could still be heard. The war was far from over, and humanity was running out of time. The alien forces were closing in, and if the weapon didn't work, humanity's chances of survival would be all but gone. "We're ready to test it," Dr. Hill said after a long pause. She looked at Jake, her expression serious. "We don't have the luxury of waiting." With a nod, Jake signaled to the technicians. The massive metallic structure before them began to hum as the test weapon powered up. The air crackled with electricity as the energy coils inside the machine began to glow. The human scientists watched anxiously, knowing that their future depended on the success of this test. Suddenly, the weapon fired. A massive burst of energy erupted from the machine, sending a beam of pure, concentrated power streaking across the sky. The ground trembled beneath them as the energy beam shot into the atmosphere, its intensity growing with each passing second. The beam collided with a large rock formation in the distance, and in an instant, the rock exploded into 1,000 pieces. It was an impressive display, but Jake's mind raced. That wasn't the true test. "The aliens are still out there," Jake said. "We need to see how it fares against their ships." Dr. Hill nodded. "We'll send it up now. We'll need a fleet to deploy it." The next few hours were spent preparing the weapon for deployment. As human ships took to the skies once again, they moved into position around the alien fleet, which had begun its approach to Earth. The massive alien armada was now on the brink of unleashing its final assault. Jake stood on the bridge of the Vanguard, watching as the human fleet prepared for battle. His fingers tightened around the control panel, his heart racing in his chest. This was it. There would be no turning back. If the weapon failed, Earth's final defense would be shattered. The final stand. The final battle was upon them. The alien mothership, colossal and terrifying, loomed in the distance, its dark, jagged silhouette cutting through the void like a harbinger of doom. Its weapons were capable of vaporizing entire fleets in seconds, and the sheer size of the ship made it an unstoppable force. Humanity's forces had been pushed to the brink, but they had one thing the aliens didn't: an unyielding will to survive. Jake stood at the helm of the Vanguard, his mind racing. The weapon had worked, yes. It had destroyed entire enemy ships in moments, and humanity had regained some semblance of control. But this mothership, this behemoth, was something entirely different. The weapon might have destroyed an individual ship, but could it take down something of this magnitude? "We're outmatched," Captain Mitchell said, her voice tense as she observed the approaching alien vessel. "That thing's shields are far stronger than anything we've encountered before. Our weapons won't make a dent." Jake nodded, his jaw clenched. They had fought through so many impossible odds to get here. But this was the final test. If they failed now, Earth would be lost forever. Every human ship had been deployed, and there was no turning back. They were the last line of defense. "We're not giving up," Jake said, his voice steady. "We've got one shot at this. We've learned more about their weaknesses than they know about ours. We've beaten them before, and we can do it again." The human fleet advanced toward the mothership, every ship in perfect formation. The weapon was ready, and so were the crews. The aliens had underestimated humanity before, and they had done it again. This time, they would make sure the aliens knew the full force of humanity's wrath. As they neared the mothership, the alien ship fired first. Beams of energy shot out from its massive guns, each one capable of reducing entire fleets to cosmic dust. The human ships dodged, weaving between the blasts as their engines roared to life. "Incoming," shouted one of the crew members, his voice tight with fear. Jake held his ground, giving orders to his fleet. They were outnumbered, but they had speed and ingenuity. The alien mothership may have been a fortress, but humanity had learned to be adaptable in the face of adversity. The first wave of human fighters swarmed the mothership, launching missiles and energy blasts. Each attack aimed at the weak spots they had discovered in their research. The alien shields shimmered, holding strong against the barrage. But there were cracks, just tiny fissures in the armor that allowed for small openings. "We're getting through," Sarah Mitchell yelled from the communications console. "The shields are failing." Jake's heart leaped, but he knew better than to celebrate too soon. The mothership had more surprises up its sleeve. "Prepare the final strike," Jake ordered, his voice cutting through the chaos. "This is our moment. We've got one shot. If this doesn't work, there's no going back." Dr. Hill's voice came through the comms. "We've aligned the weapon, but we need to get close enough to fire it. The alien ships are going to swarm us. Hold the line, Commander. You have one chance." Jake's mind raced. They had to get close enough to deploy the weapon. And with the alien fleet bearing down on them, it seemed impossible. Yet there was no other option. The human fleet, now desperately holding the line, pushed forward. Every ship was a part of a larger plan, each one sacrificing itself to provide cover for the flagship. Explosions filled the space around them, but the Vanguard pressed on, its weapons firing relentlessly at the alien forces. "We're almost there," shouted one of the gunners, his hands working the controls like a well-oiled machine. But then, as they neared the mothership's core, the unexpected happened. A massive alien ship emerged from the shadows, one Jake had never seen before. It was the flagship of the alien emperor, and it was unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. The sheer size of it dwarfed the mothership in comparison, and it was armed with enough firepower to wipe out entire star systems. "Get out of there," Sarah screamed. "They're bringing in reinforcements." Jake didn't hesitate. "No, we're going in. This ends now." With a final push, the Vanguard and its fleet surged forward, heading directly into the heart of the alien armada. The weapon was ready, and they had no more time to waste. Every remaining ship, every surviving human pilot, was part of the last gamut. Their fate was sealed. But this was the moment they had prepared for, the final stand. The weapon fired, a concentrated burst of energy that was unlike anything they had ever seen. It pierced through the alien shields, striking the heart of the mothership. In an instant, the massive ship trembled, its hull cracking and groaning under the immense pressure of the attack. For a moment, it seemed like the universe had paused. Then, with a deafening explosion, the mothership erupted into a fireball of light, its destruction sending shockwaves through space. The remaining alien forces faltered, their unity broken by the sudden loss of their flagship. One by one, the alien ships began to retreat, their once dominant forces scattering like leaves in the wind. Jake's heart pounded in his chest as the remnants of the alien fleet fled. They had won. Against all odds, against an enemy that had far surpassed them in technology, humanity had emerged victorious. The Earth, once on the brink of annihilation, had survived. But even as the war ended, Jake couldn't help but wonder, what would be next for humanity? They had won this battle, but the universe was vast. The alien forces may have been defeated, but there would always be new threats, new challenges. The battle for Earth had ended, but the fight for humanity's place in the galaxy had only just begun. "Deploying the weapon now," Dr. Hill's voice crackled over the comms. The weapon, now installed on one of the human ships, powered up. The fleet moved into position, surrounding the alien armada. The countdown began. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Jake's heart pounded in his chest. The weapon fired. The beam, larger and more powerful than any they had ever seen, tore through space with terrifying speed. It collided with the lead alien ship, its shields collapsing instantly under the force of the blast. The alien ship was completely obliterated in the blink of an eye. The rest of the alien fleet faltered. For a moment, they hesitated, unsure of how to react. The human fleet pressed on, launching wave after wave of attacks. The weapon had worked. The tide of battle had shifted. But just as the humans began to feel a glimmer of hope, something unexpected happened. A larger, more menacing alien ship appeared on the horizon, its silhouette looming in the distance. This was no ordinary warship. It was a mothership, an ancient vessel capable of wiping out entire fleets with a single strike. "We've only won one battle," Jake muttered. "The war's far from over." The weapon had given them a fighting chance, but the real test was yet to come. As the human fleet prepared for what would likely be their most dangerous fight yet, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that this new alien ship held the key to their survival, or their ultimate defeat. Part 6 ends with the successful test of the new weapon, which has given humanity a powerful edge. But the arrival of an even more dangerous alien mothership signals that the war is far from over. The final showdown is approaching, and humanity must now face its greatest challenge yet.